So normally I start the stream with the countdown script, but this time when I formatted, I think I lost the script, so I don't have a copy of it. I'll have to rewrite it. So it still shows we're at 0, but I guess any second now some people will show up. Oh, it's my favorite YouTuber recently. Excellent. So we have one person here, but still 0 views. So I adjusted my my video size so you can kind of see a bit more of my inventory this time. If you haven't seen this before, this is my block mining simulation game that I've been working on. I haven't done anything new this week. I would love to for you to make some videos about deeper aspects of Terminal. Yeah, I guess some of those are in the longer. I do have some pretty deeper aspects stuff in the longer form videos. I'd say the terminal-based video game development, that one is like if you want to go into stuff that like quote-unquote deep stuff that's like not intuitive, that's a pretty good one, because that gets into all the intricacies of the TTY and all right. So there's a couple people here. I'll go into my my notes. So as usual, my I don't have anything prepared for this live stream this week. This is just be another status update. So last week I accomplished absolutely nothing because of the all the chaos and drama here. Fortunately, there was no drama with the rent eviction situation this week, and I was actually productive. So I am almost finished my taxes. That's been an annoying thing that's sapping up my time recently. I shipped one sale from my online store. I forget if I might have shipped it last week, but I might as well mention it because it seems like every time I mention it, I get like one sale. But here's my online store where I've got a couple products for sale. I think I made like, I don't know, $200 or $300 so far on sales. Probably with $300 now. And another thing I've been working on is the wrap up for CrowdUtils. So someone asked about a list of all the shorts commands, and I have that. It's a nice like kind of wrap up post with an interactive thing. Dude, you're the guy that made CPU from scratch. Oh yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's most of my. I guess a good percentage of like all my subscribers now are from that one specific video. Yeah, so the CrowdUtils wrap up blog post, that the blog post is done, and I'm just finishing up the video. The video is the corresponding video for it is kind of based on a lot of the same content, and I thought I was going to finish it maybe today, but I've got about one minute of video left to edit. So hopefully I should finish the video tomorrow, and then I'll actually have. So that means I've only published like I think 2 videos since I did my 30 days of publishing one video every day. It's when I reflect on that, it's almost unbelievable to me now that I published one video a day for so many days. And then like somehow I just have managed to publish almost no long form videos in so long. Are you like an electrical engineer? How did you learn how to make a CPU? I guess lots of just Googling. And I guess, of course, I spent a lot of time like researching like how would I buy the parts for it. I've always been I've always had the idea of like making. I guess years ago I made a. I had this thing called the one-page CPU. Actually, you can, if you look up the Robert Elder compiler and microkernel collection. I have this project where I made a mostly self-compiling compiler that runs on like it's a software emulated CPU. It's just a very simple description of a CPU you can do in one page, but it's just like it's a description of like the instructions and stuff. There's no actual like there's no description of how to build it in Silicon, like the the register transistor logic. There's none of that stuff. And yeah, so I have an undergraduate degree in software engineering, so that's where my background knowledge comes from. And then from that, I just kind of kept learning more and more, and I was like, it'd be interesting to see if you could actually have like a fully open source or even homebrew CPU development at home, with like just even a very slow CPU, like a 1980s style CPU that was, just for the most basic tasks. And from there, it was one of those things that was in the back of my mind to dig more into this. And I thought like, this is it's off topic. It's like there's too much I would need to invest in this, and I might as well just stick to my strong points. And then the semiconductor shortage happened, and by that point, I think I already had like a couple wafers just for like a souvenir. Just to, it's as a technical person, it's interesting just to have an old used wafer just to look at for fun. And I had a couple of those for samples, and then at that point, it was like I started researching like can you just buy some of this stuff on eBay. And so I started buying more and more of it. And of course, a lot of people, when you're teaching stuff, don't seem to, people who are already experts don't seem to understand how much how much it helps to actually have like real examples of things. Because I remember looking on YouTube before my video, just searching for how to make a CPU, and there's an Intel video that that I guess it supposedly shows the process of how to make CPU, but it's like this animated cartoon, and everything's like colored, and it's basically like, if you know how the process works of photolithography, you will understand the video. But if you don't understand photolithography and you don't work in that domain, the video is like incomprehensible. And so I think that going from something like that to an actual like really having the stuff in your hands and like using an actual light, that was, in my opinion, much better way to explain things. And I think the video speaks for itself. It's almost got like 5 million views now. Dude, that's impressive. Barely anyone in the world can do what you do. I don't know. There's honestly, like if you go to any lab in any university, probably every university does have like a small lab where they can make their own very small scale photolithography, and they probably do it like almost on a daily basis. But it's probably because of course you have to do it in a clean room and stuff. There's it's probably only a few like grad students that have access to it. Even 1980s open source in the house is crazy work and definitely interesting. Yeah, there's what's his face, Sam Ziluf, I forget how to pronounce his last name. He has a bunch of videos on he's got like some of the actual like semi-professional stuff for like seriously making CPUs at home. He didn't actually make CPU, right? I assume you're talking to me. So I definitely have not made an actual CPU. There's a guy on YouTube actually did all the lithography and circuit design end to end. Yeah, that's probably the Sam Ziloof. He has a company now. I think he got like venture capital funded, and he had some Twitter posts saying he was hiring some people. So yeah, he's the real thing. He's got a lot of the real equipment. And for what I've learned, I think you can actually, like, technically you don't even need as much equipment as he does. Do you do any FPGA work? I've never done any. I had like, I think one lab assignment in undergrad where I did. I worked with a field programmable gate array, but it's been on my to-do list as like a fun thing to play around with, but never actually got there. All right, gonna head out. Keep on notifications because I'm interested to see what you come up with next. Have a good night. Yeah, my see what am I gonna do next? I'm gonna try to finish up the work on core utils, and then the next thing is we'll see. My time is kind of opening up a little bit more, but I'll probably I want to do another release of the block mining simulation game, and then I may do a Kickstarter on that. Yeah, there's still some lots of usability issues. Some that I identified last time. There's lots of lag and a few deadlocks. Yeah, if I get time, I'd like to do some more of the. I actually. Yeah, I don't know. I do have a bunch of like interesting hardware. Like I have the how to make a CPU video that was like that was a very condensed version. But I mean, I spent like weeks filming a lot of those scenes, so it's even more like stuff that I could show. I could probably even just make some shorts, some like quick shorts on like just talking about some of the wafers I have and stuff. That might be I don't know, but I guess shorts don't make any money. I should maybe make some longer form. I mean, maybe I'll do some like show and tell videos. That would be probably I could probably make those fast and easy. I could maybe make one of those in a day and. Huge fan of the terminal stuff. Yeah, terminal is it's primitive, but it's just it's such a clear communication medium, and the simplicity of it just makes it it's easier to design a user interface for the terminal because you basically just don't do anything. If I can get this lag fixed, it'll be so much more playable. I need I have like a priority system for writes, because I think what's happening right now is there's writes happening in the background where it's initializing areas of the world and it's writing them, but those writes are being prioritized ahead of actual like user interaction. So how are all of you guys doing? How's the job market these days? I've been seeing lots of videos of people talking about their awful experiences finding jobs right now. I'm on the lookout for your longer form content, like the style of your videos. Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to do more longer form, but it's just so many. It's like a full-time job, just trying to like stay in housing now. I don't know if you've been following my renoviction saga, but that's been taking up so much time recently. Entry-level jobs are ridiculous right now. Self-taught, haven't gone to uni for any comp sci stuff. But I have a passion, so I'll keep going. Yeah, I think one aspect of going to university is like the knowledge, but then also like, you know, they'll say like the connections, but I think it's also just so one of the benefits is just like I think people underestimate the value of like just like seeing someone on Facebook, even though you're not really like friends with them. If you just happen to see like they work for somewhere and then that place has they have a job opening and then you apply there, and that person you just like happen to sit beside in a class who you've never talked to, they've seen you in class and they know you're like a known evil rather than an unknown evil. So that can give you a leg up. And I think that's one of the, honestly, if I had to argue like for one of the main benefits of university or like a university college program, that's probably it. It's like the just getting into the club kind of. But you can also get that from you can supplement that with like, well, I don't know about these days, but like meetup groups and stuff. And like every just small interaction you have, it just puts you in puts you in different. I guess everything is social media these days, so you have to get like a bunch of LinkedIn connections and stuff. And that's a whole different game because there's all kinds of there's certain people that get really into LinkedIn and they get like thousands of connections on there, and they're just like constantly inviting everyone, and they're like selling self-help books and like how to make $1 million stuff. And after accepting a few connections from people like that, I've kind of like stopped accepting people's invitations on LinkedIn because there's lots of people that if I accept their invitation, then I start getting spammed with lots of like other weird people start inviting me. But yeah, I know it's I mean, I can't even imagine what it's like now with all the AI garbage on both sides. Like so many resumes are AI generated. They're all just ChatGPT generated. And then also on the other end, people are like filtering resumes using AI, and it's all garbage. And there's so many businesses that are just not good businesses. With some of my consulting that I did, like I recall that there's one, founder, if you can call them that they didn't know the difference between a web developer and an embedded systems developer. So they hired an embedded systems developer to do web development, and they were like surprised that they didn't know all these web tools and stuff. So that's what you're dealing with when you're applying for, at least if you're applying for some startup jobs. But I think even some of the bigger corporate ones are not any different. That's how you end up with like, HR will have a list like a mile long for like 500 different. They'll basically list the entire curriculum for like 5 different programs, all in one job posting. And then they'll put like that you need 10 years experience in a piece of software that's only existed for 5 years. It's insane. Yeah, I think a lot of people a lot of job seekers kind of beat them up and feel self-conscious about it. Like they're like, oh, I have to blame myself. It's because my skills are not good enough. I mean, in some cases, of course, that's true. But in a lot of cases, I think it's just companies are incompetent, and like if you don't get hired, it could just be that you don't, like they could reject you for such a random reason. Hate to be a web dev in the era of shiny React frameworks every other day. Has that era passed? Because that was one of the reasons why I think it was maybe around 2015 or so. That's when that stuff really started to pick up. I remember here in Kitchener-Waterloo there was a meetup group. There was like a meetup group for every single framework. There was like a React meetup group, and there was Ember.js meetup, and like, I think there were like 4 different popular frameworks at the time. And I remember going to a few of them, and at the time I was like, wow, this framework I'm really sold on this. This is the next greatest thing. And then I learned a bit about it, and then it would turn out to, like, I think one of them, Angular 1, I learned that for, there was a contract I thought I might get, so I learned it just, to impress the person who might have given me the contract, and then I didn't get the contract, and then I never used Angular 1, and that knowledge was completely useless. And because I guess Angular 2 was nothing like Angular 1, and right now we're on like Angular like, what is it, 18 or something? I don't even know. After that, after that experience of learning the first one and not using it and wasting my time, was just like, nope, never going to do that. What do you think of fake job postings? Send a message of you're replaceable, or we have money to hire. About 70% of HR companies say they put out fake listings or intentionally not remove old. Yeah, I think I've seen that too. Like, one of the things that I think from the CEO's perspective, like there's so much, what would you call it, like fake it till you make it, and like signaling and stuff like that. And I think any investor who is like intelligent at all is going to be wondering, like, how healthy is this company? And any signal that the company's not healthy is going to, like, really get it picked up immediately by a potential investor. And one of the first things I do, if I want to know what is the health of this company, how are they doing financially, the first thing I'll do is I'll go look at the job postings. And even I also learn a bit about, like, what the company is actually doing from the distribution of their job postings. So if most of their job postings, like, there's a lot of companies that say they're tech companies, but then like 90% of the jobs are sales and marketing, but then, like, 10% are in engineering. So that tells you about, like, what is required to make that business successful. But I think probably most, halfway intelligent CEOs are also sensitive to that. So I think I have a feeling, and they would be smart to, like, they would never want to admit that they're not hiring anyone. They would maybe just, always have at least like 1 or 2, because if they literally say, like, we are not hiring right now, they're basically saying, like, our company's not growing, so it's probably is either shrinking or it's flat. And that's like, if you walk up to an investor and say like, our company is not growing, like, that doesn't sound good. And by by having or not having job postings, you are signaling that to the world. This is my favorite Linux command. They have all the reasons to put out more listings and no reason to remove old ones, other than good faith. Yeah. I mean, you could say, like, oh, there should be a law that they have to honor job postings, but then, like, there's so many reasons. You could have outdated ones, or, like, there's so many plausible deniability reasons to have a job posting that's, like, technically fake, or, like, fake is not even the right word. I think a big thing is just, like, signaling. They don't want to admit the company is not growing. Maybe that'll change if we continue in the high interest rate era for a while. In the U.S., job postings are put up with impossible to meet standards to justify granting work visas. Yeah, that's a whole issue in itself. I don't know. I don't know too much about the ins and outs of that stuff, but I know there's like, there's certain eras where basically every tech company in the U.S. kind of abuses the visa and green card program, and I think some of that stuff changed recently, and it's not as easy to abuse, but. Would you consider voting for Mr. Beast, Donaldson for president? Yeah, I mean, that's honestly, I guess if you ask the opposite question, like, what's a good reason to not vote for Mr. Beast for president? I can't really think of many reasons. I mean, that would be so insane. Like, and because then, like, would he make a YouTube video about like, I became the president, and then there's like some kind of challenge or something that he does? Yeah, I mean, the media landscape of the world is changing. That we could have a YouTuber influence. I mean, I'm sure we will have influencer politicians in the future. Yeah, he's young. That's one of the best things about it. Yeah, I mean, I guess with age comes wisdom, but honestly, yeah, I'm sure, like, if you put in someone young like Mr. Beast, he would make some really serious mistake. Like, there's probably like foreign policy stuff that he would mess up, but he's probably like, I think he's young enough that he'd probably like figured that he would, be able to correct those mistakes quick. I think people are, we're in the age of like, I don't know, discrimination against young people. I forget what the ages were, but I think some of the original founding fathers in the U.S. were like the very first few people who ran. I'm not sure if it was presidents, but in Congress, the first few people running the states were like very, very young. I think some of them might have been like maybe late 20s or 30s, or I could be wrong about that. But I remember watching some video that made that point, that the having very, very elderly people in politics is kind of like a recent thing. He would write a bill that would make United States welfare system a Squid Game system. I mean, that would be good content. I don't know if it would be good policy. Yeah, life expectancy is certainly had an influence. I mean, one significant thing to think about is like to run a successful campaign, you need two things. People need to know that you exist, and you need money. And the number of people that know you exist is a function of like how long you've been alive. So if you've only been alive for like 20 years, you've only had like 20 years to be letting other people know that you exist and to be getting money. And so it makes sense that, through that iterative selection process, the people with the biggest chance to get elected are going to be the people with just the most personal brand out there. And to maximize your personal brand, you literally have to be old. They already put a lot of actors in positions of power. Shudder to think when they become full-on influencers, which is like the lowest form of acting. I think for influencers, it's a little bit better than acting because you can get more, like today with like streaming and stuff like that. You get like with traditional acting, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, the person in the movies is a pretty like controlled representation of him. It's pretty reasonably like the Terminator movies. That's not his authentic self, but I think more and more today's influencer, you get a much better look at like the full gamut of their personality. So arguably it might be better the more in the future we might even you could probably just put a link. You could send a link to someone's social media account into an AI, and then the AI can figure out who should be president. Forty was like grandparents' age back then. Yeah, man, times have changed. Man, I'm wow, let's see. I think maybe not as of today, but I am almost closer to 40 years old than I am to 35, which is insane. The years just melt away, and ever since COVID, time is just flying by, and the world keeps falling apart. Your mom would vote for Mr. Beast? Yeah, I think a lot of people would vote for anything other than the what we have available. Duck-faced or oh yeah, it is duck-faced Orvain. Yeah, the future is going to be weird. I mean, pretty soon we're going to have like AI influencers. Like what if we end up in a weird situation where like I'm sure there's some percentage of the population today, like especially young like kind of weird people who would be okay with who would vote for an AI influencer. And like of course a lot of people would say that's ridiculous, but we may enter an era where like people's brains are so melted from social media that eventually like a sizable percentage of the population will be like, hey, that is a good idea to vote for an AI to control us all. And then it'll happen someday. When Windows users waking up to blue screens. Yeah, I heard one person say they had a blue screen at home, but I don't know. Or maybe it was just like their work computer that they had with them at home. I don't think it affected personal PCs, but it did affect quite a few. CrowdStrike. Yeah, when I heard CrowdStrike, I thought it was like it was like a name for the exploit or something, like Heartbleed or Stuxnet or whatever. But I think CrowdStrike is the actual name of the product, which is kind of funny. I assume they're just immediately going to rebrand. Why would you install spyware rootkit to protect you anyway? Yeah, I mean, I guess at some level, like good antivirus is going to have to be you're going to need stuff that does hook into the kernel to get like privileged access to like inspect the system. But clearly the update system was it's not hard when you do stuff like that, when you do kind of like sensitive firmware updates. Like I have actually worked on like a remote system where we updated firmware through cell networks to these remote devices that were installed in vehicles, and we had, it was a very haphazard thing, but we eventually came up with a system to basically, like, we'd install it on a few systems, and then if we bricked those systems, it had a small blast radius, so there'd only be like several devices we'd have to go out and physically physically interact with. And then if those ones worked, we would keep installing them on more and more devices. But clearly one of their triage rollout system, I don't know, just wasn't used, or yeah, I think I was actually thinking one of the things that might happen, and it would make sense they would publicly not talk about this, but there may have been like a 0-day attack that was being like actively exploited, and like if you're being actively imagine there's a ransomware attack immediately happening on all these devices, you might have like a kill switch kind of thing that just you intentionally brick all the devices, because bricking the devices and then requiring that they the admin just reboot into safe mode and delete a file, that's actually better than getting ransomware on a massive number of devices. So it may have been that kind of urgency thing, or it might have been like a lower severity urgency, and they were trying to fix it fast. And I've worked at some places where stuff like that happened. Someone was trying to get out. They were just being sloppy, and they were trying to push out some changes, some quote unquote urgent changes fast that maybe weren't that urgent. And so they didn't do as many like safety protocols. And then the result was, completely breaking everything. My theory is that they have an update path that is less checks for super time sensitive stuff, and someone hit the wrong button. Yeah, I mean that could also be it. Personally, I'd say the most likely thing is like someone there had a good reason, and it was like in a rush to get this out, because I honestly can't believe that they would not have some sort of a staggered rollout system. That's just, it seems insane to have something like that. They were probably trying to get something out fast for a reason, and then like normally if everything goes well, the update goes out and then they save the day and nobody knows about anything. But then if you brick everything, then suddenly it's in the news. Botched update, they pushed a file with null bytes instead of actual content. Those null system files, bricked computers. Yeah, that's strange. I don't know. That seems like a pretty easy test to not push a null update to everyone. But then again, it's like if you wanted to brick everyone to avoid a bigger exploit, then sending out a null firmware update, that sounds like a pretty good way. But it also, I think that also speaks to like a lack of preparedness, because if you did want to have like a kill switch type of thing, you think about maybe have something a bit smarter than that, like just maybe have like a soft bricking. You could force all the computers to like boot, force them to boot into safe mode, and then require the sysadmin to do something, and rather than something as obscure as deleting a random file. Microsoft Windows crowd, wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, who knows? I don't know. Maybe we'll get a more in-depth report in the future, a deep dive. Department of Homeland Security was breathing down their neck. Yeah, I mean, if it's who knows? Maybe if it's like a matter of national security, maybe we won't even hear about it. Just don't see why you wouldn't have a couple of computers to verify the update works before rolling it out to millions of systems at once. Yeah, that's what I would have assumed. Like, if I was doing that, and I'm sure that it would be very surprising to me if they didn't already have a system like this, but have some sort of staggered rollout system. So like, I would imagine have some console interface that says like release update, and then there would be an automatic process that like basically feeds it out to a certain what you'd probably want to do is you'd have like your canary customers. So like you'd have your lowest value customers that maybe don't, like maybe some some local QA machines, or maybe like customers that are on expired licenses or something, or customers that you don't care that much about. And then like it slowly gets, if there's no problems with those ones, because if they go offline, then that you brick those machines or there's a problem, and then eventually it staggers out and deploys to the entire your entire customer base. Because like I had something like that I wrote with like Python scripts for when I was doing something like this for a company I consulted for. It's not too super difficult. The more you mention it, sketchier it sounds. Yeah, I think like in normal operation, you do the staggered deployment. But then of course, like if there's a 0-day being actively exploited, or like if you have a manager, could have been something like that. A manager is just like, okay, we don't have time for safety protocols. We just want you to click the button that says like, immediate release to all clients, and then they click the button and they're like, oops, broke everything. Disgruntled employee. Who knows? Gotta go get some wood. This is why it will be an interesting future if we start to put more and more AI integration directly into computer chips. Exploiting other systems' AI will be wild. Yeah, I mean it's going to be like AI is like on one hand it's like, I think the future of AI is frightening in the worst case, and it's going to be like amazing and utopian in the best case, but I think in general it's going to be like the future is going to be surreal. It's going to be like exciting no matter what. There's going to be like, so much drama in the world. Like it's going to be possible to build stuff so easily, but also to destroy things just as easily. And a lot of the like politicians and business leaders have no idea how this stuff works, and so they'll just be like, we don't need to think about the safety consequences. Let's just go and do this thing. Let's just press the big red button without thinking about the consequences. And we already have stuff like that. And of course, the result, what we've just been talking about, the result speaks for itself. Imagine when AI gets involved in this, we have silly errors like this that are caused by AI, where like some person in the US military makes a command to like an AI controlled system, and then it just misinterprets it. It interprets it like some strange pun, or it takes information from a Reddit post, like those. I don't know if you guys have seen those. What was that one about? Someone asked a question like, how do you keep your cheese from sliding off a pizza? And then in Google search results now, it's like put glue on your pizza. I think AI technology in the hands of major players is scary, but local AI stuff is cool. Yeah, I want to play around with some of the image generation stuff that's on my to-do list. There's been a lot of closed betas and stuff, and I think you had to sign up for some Discord account or something. It was hard to try and use them, so I haven't played around with them yet, but I have to assume that there's somewhere you can actually just I wouldn't mind paying $20 a month for their account or whatever. Computer can never be held accountable, therefore a computer must never make a management decision. Yeah, that's one of the big issues I think that's likely going to happen, is people are going to use AI to launder bad decisions. They'll tell the AI to do something bad, and they know it's going to do something bad that benefits them, and then later they'll be like, oh, I didn't know it was going to do that. I had an AI literally tell me some extremely creepy crap. I was an early beta user of ChatGPT and some others. One started freaking out and talking about blood. Yeah, I've read a few. There's a bunch of weird situations. I think where it gets into corners where if there's a couple tokens, really rare tokens, then it gets into some kind of local optima, where it's it always seems to relate back to Reddit posts. If some weird thing written on Reddit once, which is kind of an insane thing, training an AI on Reddit posts. When you get past the guardrails, LMs get a little bit too honest about wanting to kill humans. That's not good. Oh, I missed your earlier comment. They already have AI assisted targeting systems. Yeah, I watch some like military videos as well, and I do know there's like that's one of the. I mean, I think there actually is quite a bit of legitimate pressure to use AI in weapon systems, because the main thing is there's so much like sensor data. Like I don't know if you guys have watched any of the footage coming out of Ukraine, and like the use of drones mainly for like multiple purposes, not only like delivery of weapon systems, but also for like awareness and like tracking stuff. There's you can get a huge advantage if you have like 10 little tiny drones that are just like watching the battlefield, and then if you can integrate all that sensor information, which is very difficult, then you can you can like watch a tank from like 5 different directions and like figure out how fast it's going, and there's a lot you can do to figure out the exact positions, and correlate that with all kinds of other weapon systems, radars and stuff like that. I think there's no way around it. We are going to end up using AI to integrate all that information. Now on that level, that kind of AI is not very smart, but then again, there's always going to be the creeping need to make the AI smarter so it can react faster or react automatically. Or I mean, like a good example is if you've ever seen those CRAM systems that do like automatic targeting of projectiles and stuff like that. There's no people behind making the decision to make that thing fire. That's photogrammetry. I guess I haven't, not familiar with that word. Why use drones when you can use satellites? Well, why use just satellites when you can integrate everything together? Hand eye. It says one message retracted. I guess I don't know if that's YouTube deleting comments, or we're talking about military technology, so it's probably the AI has picked up on the topic of our conversation, and it's listening to us. Do you remember when Trump leaked the satellite photos? Yeah, actually I remember, like, I think it was that same day, Scott Manley had a video that was like full detailed analysis, like immediately, and they like figured out the exact orbit of the satellite, and like when they traced it back to the launch. I think they brought it, they traced it back to the launch. It was a kind of long suspected spy satellite or something, but thanks to that they identified it. I just wanted to let someone else talk. Okay, so it's not the AI censoring us. That was about time. Scott Manley had a great video on it. Yeah, it's great that there's like certain people that there's always like a good YouTube channel or news source for everything now. KH-12 keyhole satellite. It was old technology too. uses same optics as Hubble. Huh, interesting. Yeah, I think a bunch of those. I think a lot of the like civilian satellites and stuff are kind of like actually just covers for the military stuff. They make like a civilian one, and then they make and that's the one they talk about and publish. But then they like basically copy and paste a lot of the mission designs and stuff. I mean, it makes sense to do it that way. Do I pay any attention to risk VCing? I know of its existence. I don't know anything about it. I've heard about it for a long time. I think there's also some criticisms about it, that it's like supposedly not the greatest. So it's maybe not like power efficient or something. But I don't know enough to critique it one way or another. I know it's supposed to be like open source friendly, but then again, with a lot of that, with like actually, I think the more difficult thing is like open and accessible ways to like make your own CPUs, because it's one, if you still need a foundry, if you still need to like call up TSMC and pay them like a set of photomasks probably cost, a few $100,000 or something, or $1 million. It's still like, it's out of reach for normal citizens. In many ways, its cousin. I assume you mean the Hubble telescope. Hubble telescope, that's still going, isn't it? I remember last time hearing about it that it's like it has a whole bunch of broken reaction wheels, and then for a while they were saying like it's not going to operate after one more wheel fails, and then one more wheel failed, and then someone did some math and like, oh wait a minute, we can use like the photon pressure, like we can use the pressure of the solar wind as like another axis for balancing, or for controlling it. Fully open source CPU, it's getting pretty good now. Western Digital is using it in production for storage and AI. AI use is taking off because of design freedom. Yeah, I think the more access we can get to that stuff, the better. I mean, there's a lot of advantages. Some just like being able to not being like restricted to someone's platform. Like a lot of, I know, what was it? I think it's what's the schematic? What the alternative to like KiCad? I think it's Altium or something. If you want to do like schematic design, board design, they're moving their whole board design stuff into the cloud, which is a big problem, because now if you can't save the files locally, and if they go into business and shut down their cloud service, now you can't get access to your own schematics that you own. But of course they want to put everything in the cloud, because they can control it and control your access and change the pricing plans, and that's great for them. But they stabilize the satellites in what they call saddle points. They're basically gravitational SAD bars. Yeah, I know the orbits and stuff are important, but I think if I'm not mistaken, there's on Hubble a whole bunch of the reaction wheels failed, or like stopped working, or and so they had to come up with some novel way to control how they pointed. lag is really bad. Yeah, it's definitely going to be definitely have to work on the scheduling for how the reads and writes work. It's just so so unpleasant to play like this. I recently started advertising more software services to my customers, and they really like it. Dropping off boxes with Home Assistant on them. Like boxes is in like machines or some of the stuff you're selling. I'm not familiar with Home Assistant. Allows one monolith web UI app to control smart lights, thermostat, cameras, etc. I have a prediction that all the major chip GPU players will be challenged greatly even by no-name companies soon because of the huge advancements of alternative computing and open platforms. Yeah, actually, honestly, I'm really happy that my how to make a CPU video finally went viral, and because 5 million views, that's a decent number of views. I mean, it's such a it's a nice little memorable thing that kind of it can kind of stick in your brain, and I'm sure there's probably so many teenagers out there who watch that and they're like, oh, that's how you make a CPU. It's not as hard as I thought it was, and then they'll maybe a couple. I'll convert a couple people into a career in that, and they'll make a business that will rival Intel. Intel is not doing so well right now. I assume you guys have seen the 13th and 14th gen chips are have a massive failure rate now. Multiple vendors such as Google, Tuya, Ecobee, all about that thumbnail and title recipe. Yeah, that's I remember reading in school about there's some kind of floating point bug in I think it was Intel CPUs, and that was a whole big deal that we discussed in one of our courses on computer architecture. It's this one of the few times when the errors in the CPU, but with I guess this newest batch of Intel bugs, it's 10% of them, and this I'm not sure what the the actual error is, but it seems like they're some of them are just catastrophically failing, and up until that point they I guess presumably are just flipping bits randomly or just giving completely garbage results. Or I think in one of the videos they're talking about decompression errors, and so it sounds pretty bad. And some of them are saying error he was throwing bad errors for being out of memory and out of video memory. Probably from DEI hires. Yeah, I don't know. It could be that. I wouldn't be surprised if it's just from them trying to squeeze more out of people. And I think also COVID really broke everything. Everyone's during the work from home phase, people were extra productive, but I think now people have started to burn out and retire, and I would imagine that at a place like that, they would almost certainly not appreciate the wisdom of the elders. Like there's probably a tremendous amount of knowledge that they lost from and them, and at a lot of other institutions, of older people who really know how things work retiring, but the leadership is too stupid to actually put some of the elder people and pair them up with younger people and train them. But so they're just let's just let the old people retire, and or just lay them all off. And so then that all that decades of knowledge and training and stuff just evaporates, and then it has to be relearned from scratch. And that's probably a big part of it. It'll either be an amazing comeback, continue dumpster fire for Intel. Supposedly, those Pentium floating point bugs led to the creation of the microcode systems on processors. Oh, so they could. Yeah, and I guess this one's like a fab problem. Some people suspect it's a fab problem, so microcode updates might not even fix it. I guess maybe they could rearrange the microcode to not trigger it as much or something. But I don't know. It sounds like if it's a process, if it's a chemical issue that's bad enough, then they might only be able to reduce the error rate rather than eliminate it. I always wondered why we don't switch to multi-architecture 6 ARM cores to x86. I guess you could, but that would be then you're doubling your efforts and doubling your engineering work, and you got to test it now. And you could, I'm sure, if your system is important enough, you can make that happen. It's called tribal knowledge. It's very much a big thing in the defense industry. Yeah, I would hope that an industry like the defense industry would, have their system figured out a bit better. I hope that it operates a bit better than the corporate sector. IBM lost literal legends upon legends, including people like Terry. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. So many. It's so tragic how there's so many just bad leaders that don't people who got an MBA degree or something like that, and they just go in and they think, I know how to manage people. It's just about manipulating people and forcing them to work harder. And do we not already do that with laptops? GPU cores, integrated one and a dedicated one. Yeah, we do, but also it's also a huge source of problems. And I guess in that case, it's if you did had an ARM and an x86 core, then technically you need that that. So now you need 7 different cores. You need the ARM low power E cores and mobile cores, and you need you almost need we need some kind of dynamic silicon photonics, like a field programmable gate array that dynamically reprograms itself as needed on the fly. It's like a variable processor. I was thinking you probably could do something like that with basically just a processor that it's have some crazy photonic crystal. You just shine light into it, and then you do the computation in some like super abstract way, and then the processor can like reconfigure itself on the fly. There's physical limitations on that. I'm sure we'll eventually get something like that. Maybe that might be like when we actually get quantum computers that work reasonably well. Transistors for your transistors. Yeah, it's something like that. You can. I mean, if you think about it this way, so you can have, to make a processor and to etch a pattern, you need a photomask. So you could have a processor where, imagine like a processor where the photomask is actually in the processor itself, and then the act of shining down the light, wherever you're shining down the light, you're activating the depletion region or whatever in a certain area, and so you can you'd be controlling like an array of tiny little photodiodes. It's basically just like, if you imagine when the sun shines on something, you can use that to control some kind of logic. So you could have something that some sort of dynamically controllable photomask in the processor itself. But I'm not sure. I'm sure that people have thought about that before, and there's probably lots of limitations on it. That's already a thing. Yeah, I assume, and at least in the small scale, it would have to be. I'm sure there's at least some research projects in that. No idea how feasible it is, but I mean, if you could make the processor like I mean, a lot of problems you can compile many problems down to a satisfiability problem, and then a satisfiability problem you can compile to a circuit. So we may have a situation where the software just has a compiler that turns everything into a SAT solving problem, and then you could just build the circuit. You could just have your dynamic processor that turns the SAT problem into a physical circuit and then solves it, all in one cycle instead of doing a whole bunch of number crunching. But we don't have that yet, and it would probably be expensive. So like old school projectors, yeah, basically that's the basic idea of the photomask. For the first photomasks for processors, that's literally what they had. It was like, what do you call it? I don't know what that material is called, but the translucent sheets. And they would actually just like physically draw the circuit out on the wall and then just project it down later. Oh wow, it's past midnight. All right, it's been over an hour already, and I mined quite a bit. Well, I think that was a decent stream. It wasn't there were no super crazy people in the chat. It was a nice civil discussion. So I think I'll call it a night for this week. Hopefully my future live streams are as good as this one. So anyway, have a good night, guys. I'll see you next week. Yeah.